ladies and gentlemen, to this impact. This was a good impact. I did enjoy it, but I'm going to say this right now that I'm in a lot of pain right now. So if I seem to kind of go off a little bit, please be a little understanding. I actually hurt my back visiting a relative just sitting on a couch. That sucks. I'm telling you, it sucks just sitting on a normal couch. That's really soft and comfortable for anyone else is not when you have a messed up hip and back. I'm just saying. So I apologize if I just don't seem to be myself. I'm actually in a lot of pain right now. But I'm going to say this about the show. It's actually a good show for me personally. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Tell me below. But the majority of the show was actually pretty well constructed. The opening of the show was epic. I actually enjoyed it a lot. Normally we would see MVP, King, and Lashley. Normally we would see Bobby Roode. Normally we would see maybe once in a while Kurt Angle, which is not bad. This time we only saw Storm and his evolution, baby. I actually was very happy to see this, and then they brought the Wolves out. But I got a question about this. We were wondering if Davey Richards was going to turn. And it was going to be a very interesting situation. I actually was interested in seeing Davey Richards turning heel and going after Eddie Edwards. But we didn't get that. We got Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards staying together and getting their ass handed to them by Storm. And the match between Storm and Abyss versus the Wolves, why couldn't it have been someone else other than the Abyss? I can understand the reason why they probably did it. They wanted to make sure that Storm had the strongest person you could think of in the business, in this company, and you would use Abyss. But to me personally, I really wish they had not used Abyss. I would have liked them to really go away from that. That is the old guard. That is the problem with wrestling. You always go back to the old guard when you're trying to do something brand new. You got two new guys in that faction. You got the Great Sonata and you got Manic. And I know Manic is stretching it, but he is something you could do something with. Storm, who has been highly entertaining. It would have been better if they brought someone else other than Abyss in. I would have liked someone totally different. You could have brought in a Bram. In actuality, Bram would have been better to bring in than the Abyss, for the simple reason Abyss is not relevant. Bram is. He's a hardcore king. I would have liked to see him brought in. But we get this. And we get the Feast and Fire briefcase, which I had totally forgotten about. I thought they just threw that sucker away, threw away the concept. But they actually held it until now. Now you could say, well, they had nothing else better to do. They weren't going to cash it in, so it's better to use something that they hadn't thought about in a while. Or maybe they actually planned it. I think they probably didn't plan it. They just threw it out there and they've forgotten all about it. Which I'm okay with either way. Because now Storm has both titles. And now what's happened with Joe. And I will be talking about that later. Now Manic is in the Fatal 4-Way for the X Division Championship. Now. The match, I really felt, should never have been done. I can understand the reason why it was done, but it should never have been done. Madison Rayne versus Tyrus. Now you see I'm getting things botched, because this was frustrating. Tarrant didn't need this match. She already had a legitimate beef versus Havoc. She didn't really need this enhancement jobber match that dragged on way longer than it needed to be. And that's my issue. Next to Madison Rayne being a heel, because she sucks as a heel. I'm sorry. If anyone likes her as a heel, more power to you. I'm glad for you. She's not a half bad looking woman. I know the Sled Daddy thinks of her as a goat or whatever. For me personally, I'll take whatever I can get. But to get my point, Madison Rayne is a terrible heel. She's marginally a better face. And that is stretching it. At least she doesn't overact. And she did this so badly here. it wasn't a great match for me. It looked like it was botched a couple of times, which should never have been botched. In the end, you see, I'm getting Tyrus and Terrence confused because I felt this was not worth it. At middle of the show somewhere, when that backstage with Gail Kim and Terrence was brought up, I felt was a better thing to do. I really believe they didn't need to have much talked about. Terrence got fucked by Havoc. Gail Kim got fucked by Havoc. And Fool Killer 99, I do agree with him that Gail Kim was brought back a little too early. But I felt that it was still a good enough of a feud that last week when I said that their match should have finished the show, what I believe should still stand. Because I felt through the entire night, that match was the best match of the night. Even though having a Gail Kim come back so early was a little bit of a letdown, I still saw it for what it was. We still got something good. You still got Gail having to struggle with a Havoc, even though she was played a little bit almost like a Super Cena. I was alright with that. The match was a little funny. Romance and the Beautiful People versus the Menagerie. Now, I'm really upset they got rid of the Freak. And we know this is Rob Terry. He probably went back to OVW. They could have done something with him. They could have done something special with him, but they decided to cut him out. And they kept Crazy Steve, which was alright. Crazy Steve really made the match fun for me personally. He didn't do a bad job in the match. Him smacking the ass of Angelina Love, and that kind of makes me angry because I want to smack Angelina Love. Laura Williams, I'm in love with to a certain extent. I would love to have her. It's not having the biggest ass in the world and the biggest titties in the world. And I'm not being offensive to you ladies that are watching this show. I've had both types of women in my life. I've had very thick women, very voluptuous women, and very average looking women in shape. I don't really care. Preference wise, when you're with that person, don't matter. I just love me some Angelina Love. She's a good looking woman. I don't care if she's a skinny little stick. I'm happy with her. Seeing that ass getting smacked, I take offense at you, Crazy Steve. I'm not happy with you. But in the end, Crazy Steve is the one who won the match. Doesn't mean anything. Really, no. But I'm kind of glad the Menagerie is getting some wins. You know why? Because they're a jobber face team. And the Bromance and the Beautiful People are a jobber heel team. You gotta let them once in a while win. That's how I see it. Now, Manic and Shivan, or Shira, I can't even pronounce the guy's name. He is already put on the roster on TNA's website. I really believe they should have brought him out first and wrestle first before they actually put him on the damn website, and people are going to be wondering, who the fuck is this? Another jobber. From what I understand, he's from Sony 6, which is supposed to be a, well, not a wrestling promotion per se. It's actually a television channel in India. I don't really know which company he comes from. But in the end, they could have done something a little bit different with him. They didn't need to put him on the website first. I believe that was a bad call on their part. Him dealing with a storm, I'm actually glad to see, because he said simply he needs to sacrifice. I'm alright with Manic. Bring him in. That's good with Manic. Let him do something light. Let him bring in the person lightly. He's not a good talker, but it's not the point. I can't wait to see how this guy is going to have to sacrifice. Will he be tied up like Manic? And will he be tied up like the Great Sonata? I don't know. You didn't need to tie up the Abyss because he sucks. I'm just saying. Eli versus Tyrus. I gotta say it now because I want to get it over with. Because I want to state this now. Seeing the match upsets me so badly because Tyrus just looks like a loss. And I'm sure a lot of people would say, oh, finally, he finally sees what we see. Brodus Clay, the Funkasaurus, was a piece of shit and he should never been brought into TNA. No. This isn't about that. The situation I have with Tyrus is this. He looks like the Funkasaurus. He's still acting like the Funkasaurus even though EC3 is talking for him. And that's my issue. He shouldn't be wearing the same clothes. He should have actually changed his ring work 100%. Something entirely different. And you guys tell me, why was his right leg shaking like he was losing strength in his right leg? I'm worried about if the guy has already been injured before he got into the ring and started working with TNA. But this really was twofold of a match. One,